All right. Good morning, everyone. Hi. Can you hear me all right? Okay. All right. It's so early again. It's like every time I take a red eye flight, it always seems like a good idea at the time. You buy the flight, and you're like, wow, I just saved a couple $100. This will be wonderful. It's the same idea of like, it's a great idea to teach at 5:30 in the morning. Oh my gosh. It's a great idea. Just takes me a while to get moving. It doesn't matter whether I start at 6 a.m., 5:30, 8:30. I have a meeting at 10. Everyone knows I'm always like literally 2 minutes late. So I'm not sure why. I haven't figured out the karma for it. But all right, here we are. So we're there's a big transition that happens in in the teaching of the original classic ACI. And it starts to happen in this course, in course 9. And then it really just kind of takes off from there. Um, and you can actually feel it, like having listened to the courses many times and knowing my teacher for a very, very long time. You can see a shift that is made in the development of these courses around course 9. And and looking back on it, right? It's what's been 30, almost 30 years since that course was originally taught. And looking back and to say, all right, what was going on in their mind? Like, why was this put together in this way? Right? Like, why? These are the questions I always ask. Why do we now get to study an entire course on Vinaya? Like the foundational ethical way of life. Why is it now in course 9 that we get this opportunity to go to the foundation, right? We've just spent the last course talking about all the different forms of beings there are and how to become them. Like, what's the karma to become those beings? And then, prior to that, we studied bodhisattva vows, right? Prior to that, we studied Diamond Cutter Sutra, then karma, but like, why do we then sort of like revert and then learn all about the foundation, like the foundation of like the foundational ethics, like even more foundational than bodhisattva vows, right? Uh, Speaking of foundations, I forgot to turn on my background. I'm so sorry. Not that it's actually important, but actually it is important. So Francisco's laughing. Um, but so the question really becomes like, why? Like, why do we now need to focus again on our ethical foundation? Like, why are we going back to the beginning? Okay. Like, why are we going back to essentially, for most of us, the 10 basic virtues? Like the thing that we're always referring to, And you would imagine that, like, halfway through the classic ACI courses, that you would already be doing this. Right. You would imagine that you've gone to enough classes, you've gone to enough courses, you've reviewed it a billion times. Everyone's always talking about your book practice. But then all of a sudden, there's a whole course devoted to it, and I think it's worth evaluating some of the why. And then even more so, why in this, why in this time? Now, I'm not talking about just the the time in the classic ACI course. I want to ask the question, why today? I don't care about 30 years ago. I mean, I do sometimes, but I'm more interested in why now? Like, why today? Like, why do we get to wake up on July 26th, 2026? Like, why is it important to us today? Like, what message is it for us today? You see? And I think that's where the more interesting question comes. Like, why are we getting this teaching today? Like, I was reviewing this, over the last couple of days, you know, and thinking, okay, well, what's the deeper meaning of it? And so many people, and many of us, I'm thinking about, you know, what's going to happen in 30 years that maybe, hopefully, this course will survive another 30 years, right? The Dharma will stay in the world another 30 years, and maybe someone in 30 years will watch the class. But what's happening today? Like, what's in today's ambiance, in the environment today, that goes, it is now important for us to study the top 10 virtues, right? The basic foundation of everything, like the engine that makes it go. Right? And many of us are preparing for, a transmission into the Diamond Way coming up in the next couple months. And a lot of us have been asking the question, like, well, why? Well, how can I be prepared? How can I get all of the pieces together? How can I ensure? Someone asked me last night, how can I ensure that I'm ready? Excuse me. Well, you're ready because you're here, right? You're ready because you're hearing, like your ears are open to hearing it. And those of you that are on your phone and those of you who are having side conversations, because I can see your videos, maybe you're not hearing what I'm saying. So some of you are listening and some of you are not. And you have a karma for it, right? You have a karma to hear what I just said. And maybe you're not even hearing the words that I'm saying. Maybe you're hearing something else entirely different, right? And so I think that's the most important question to ask yourself anytime you're in any kind of class. In fact, when your practice gets strong enough, it's not even just in class. It's like, what about that conversation I had at the store the other day? Or how about the post office, right? Talking to Jennifer. Jennifer's a suspicious one. She said some cool things to me. Well, why did she say that to me? You know, She showed me that she can love her job and have a ton of fun just moving pieces of paper around, right? She just works at a post office, right? You give her packages, she puts stamps on it, and then they mail out, right? Is it a normal job, or is she sending messages around the world, right? She was having a lot of fun at her job, and she brightened up my day, right? So asking yourself that question, not just, oh, while I'm sitting in a class, right, which is an important time, but also like if you're looking for, if you're, so look, your world headline, flash news, your world is a reflection of your past deeds, period. The world that you see right now, the way that you're reacting to it, the way you feel about it, all of that is a reflection of your past deeds or some of your past deeds wearing out. You know, oh, I had the motivation 10 years ago. I had joy 10 years ago. Now I'm like, bleh. You know, well, why did I lose that motivation? Why did that seed run out? Right? It's not that the world sucks today and then it was great 10 years ago. It's because your seeds are different. Something else is asserting itself. So what you see, what is going on around you, your reactions to it, your body, your mind, all of those things are just a reflection of your past deeds, who you used to be, what used to be. Let's just say what used to be, you know, because don't get into a guilt trip of saying, I created all this. You did create all of this, but you, as Kat, as Anastasia, as Emily, didn't create all of these things right now. This is lifetimes of seed banking, like streams and streams of actions and deeds and thoughts that are coalescing right now, of which you don't really have much control of. So if you're looking to figure out who you were, just walk around. Just go to the post office. You know, if I ask myself, who was I in that post office? What seeds were planted that created the post office and the experience of the post office? I had a very helpful experience. I had a guy in front of me who apologized to me 20 times because his problem wasn't being solved fast enough. He was worried that I was impatient. I'm like, well, I could be impatient right now. Like he's worried about a package that didn't get delivered, that maybe or maybe didn't get delivered. Right. And then when I talked to Jennifer, I was sending my mom a birthday gift. I was sending my niece a birthday gift. And, you know, she helped me with another problem that I have. And, it was was it a normal experience? Were those people just normal people? First, the first level of understanding anything Diamond Way is to understand that what is appearing to you is just a prior you. It's nothing else. And then the way that you take it, the way that what you do with it, excuse me, what you do with it, and the seeds that ripen that give you the options to do different things and to perceive different things and to act different ways are also coming from, come on, you can say it, are also coming from past deeds as well. Okay. Oh, I like that. Someone said you were like a trust fund baby. That one read real fast. You see, and so Evgeny, what am I doing here? Yeah, that's a good question to ask. What am I doing here today? And the seeds that change and that evolve or get pushed forward as your practice becomes, look, we're trying to create the conditions for certain seeds to ripen in. We need a post office, right? How many people want to see emptiness directly? Raise your hand. I'll flip through the screens. Okay. And some of you, most of you might, some of you might be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Okay. Keep your hands up. Okay. How many of you, okay, now be completely 100% honest because you're practicing your 10 non-virtue or your 10 virtues, right? 100% honest. How many of you have shamatha? Okay. Keep your hands down. How many of you are meditating 1 hour a day with really good focus? Okay. All right. Wow. Look at that. Okay. All right. How many of you are following the Good Night Book Club and go to bed at 10 and get up at 6-ish? Okay. So just get a feeling. It, are you creating the conditions to see emptiness directly? And I'm laughing, but it's, like, is it what you want? You know, and I'm saying, I liked what you said, um, Tyler, like Shama what? Shamata, Shama what? I think that's great. Like, and I think that's to get there, we have to create the conditions for it. And then to create the conditions for it, we have to be in a position to like to be able to see emptiness directly. You have to have a calm mind. There's no way that you can reflect the absence of a seed ripening, the absence of something that's not coming from seeds. Sorry, translators. The absence of something not coming from seeds. And to reflect that in the stillness of the mind for 20 minutes without certain causes and conditions, right? And so that wasn't meant to be a guilt trip. It wasn't meant to be like, that's not what that activity was about. Is that we're on the way to create those conditions, right? And some of those conditions that help you get there are your day-to-day life, how you walk into the post office, right? How do you see and take the conversations that you have in the post office with just normal everyday rimrock people? Okay. Oh, well, those people aren't Dharma practitioners. They're not special, right? You got to let that go. Like your spiritual superiority has to go out the window when you walk into the post office. Okay. And there's a place for and I didn't say this, but there's obviously a place for, communities of practitioners who are doing the same thing together to support each other, like what we're doing, right? Like I didn't say don't have people around you. What I'm saying is that your life is a reflection of who you were, your struggles, your happinesses, your sadnesses. All of those things are coming from previous seeds. And then having the diamond way as a new tool, as a overlay, as a way of practicing, you know, think about what we're going to talk about today in the context of how does that help you in the post office? Right? How does it help you reach shamatha? Like a form of shamatha could be like a constant awareness of what's happening right now is coming from previous deeds. That's a kind of shamatha. I'd rather be thinking about that than ruminating about some stupid thing someone said to me last week or some emotion that I have about, oh, I'm not being treated fair or, oh, like, oh, these people don't care about me. And, you know, I do enough of that already. I wallow in my self misery enough. Okay. Like, how many times do I have the fake conversation that I'm never going to have with the person who irritated me? Right? Like I prove them so wrong in my head that I'm right and they're wrong and I'm better and that, they need to understand the way they hurt me. They need to understand that their actions had impact on me and it hurt me. And obviously I'm still hurt because I'm thinking about it. And I'm not saying don't take care of, hurts. That's not what I'm saying. Learning how to talk with the people you care about the way that you took something, right? Was that person out there intentionally trying to hurt me? No, they probably just didn't care about you. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They just weren't thinking about you because what were they doing? They were probably just thinking about themselves, just like you're probably just thinking about yourself. Okay, right? Like they're not intentionally hurting you. They're just unaware. They're just not paying attention. They're not paying attention to the impact that their actions have. And that is the foundation of Vinaya. Paying attention to the impact that your actions have on other people. Stop doing things that hurt people. And it is really eye-opening if you really take a look at the things that we do. I know, Shanti, I do that too. I want to tell people why I want to remind them of the way that they hurt me. Right. And then the mind just goes and just keeps going on and on and on and on. So in some ways, the desire or the ongoing thought to remind people of the way that they hurt you in some way is also a seed ripening, right? Like you're forced to have, excuse me, you're forced to have that thought. Thank you for reminding me to slow down. You know, so with the overlay of, oh, look, my kitty, my overlay, that don't put that on the internet. It look weird. Frozen. Um, Right. Okay. So this is a good point, Vladislava. Sometimes it's unpredictable what might hurt other people. What's unpredictable? Why is it unpredictable? You're being nice, and then someone says, you were super mean to me. I had a relationship end because I thought someone was being mean to me, and it turned out months later that they were taking care of me. Bless you, Jack. I'll say it again. A relationship ended because I thought someone was hurting me, and they actually were trying to help me. Something that could have been a really good relationship. We're really good friends now, but took us a while. But you see, like, whether someone gets hurt or not sometimes has nothing to do with the action, actually has nothing to do with the action that you're doing right now. And these are all this is the subtlety of this course, right? We can go through every single detail. Like when I first taught this, I was like, wow, this is so easy to teach. This is so straightforward, but it's not. And it's really a preparation for what comes next because course 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, we go on a big trip, right? We go deep into emptiness. We go deep into logic. We go deep into Lojong, which is very difficult. We go into how to interpret the Buddha. You know, it's it's a complete shift. And honestly, as a teacher, like preparing those classes, it got difficult. Thank you. Right. It gets much more challenging. So here's what I want to start with is the idea of building the foundation, building the causes, building the conditions for the things that you want. And in conversely, building the conditions and things for the building the conditions for the things you don't want to stop the conditions you don't want. That's what I'm saying. Right. And so Vinaya, I've been, most of us are going to be studying this in terms of the Prakti Moksha vows, the Prakti Moksha, the five lay person's vows, the 10 virtues, which by the way, I had a cool teaching on this about a month ago. Yeshe Michael started calling the lay person's vows the core vows. And he wrote it on the schedule and then didn't explain. And so then I had to ask him what he meant by it. Even though I can figure it out, I figured it out mainly, but I wanted to get clarity, which is what a teacher does. The teacher doesn't give you all the answers, right? They're trying to give you tools to figure it out yourself because only you can figure it out for yourself anyway. Um, and so I asked him, I said, okay, so we're going to offer the core vows during the Malaysia event. Yes. Okay, great. And I said, what did you mean? What do you mean by core vows? And he did the thing like, I don't know. I don't remember. And I'm like, you spend 6 days working on this. You know what you're doing. It's like, you don't fool me. So I said, okay, well, do the core vows mean the layperson vows? And we're just calling it that way because, we're trying out new language. And he said, well, oh yeah. He goes, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. He said, but it also assumes the 10 virtues. So it was a really cool discussion that taking the layperson's vows, which is just 5 things, 6 if you include the refuge commitments, which is part of the 5. And then he said, well, actually, it includes all of the 10 virtues when you take the layperson's vows. Right. So most of us are going to be working at that place. Okay. And recently we've been studying privately. We had a whole 6 years of the ordained vows and the mixed nuts. Somebody asked me the other day, can you give me ordination vows? I'm like, you don't know who I am. Like, no, you don't understand. Ordination can only be given by people who are ordained. All right. Not yet. That's my answer. I can't give it to you yet. Maybe someday. But they asked me for the ordination vows, and I'm like, yeah, go study. Like, there's 6 years of classes on monks and nuns vows. There's a whole book on it. It's actually right here. I actually didn't plan this, or maybe I did. Okay, I did not plan this moment. Here it is. The essence of the ocean. You know, translated by Joe Xiaoping and also Geshe Michael. And it goes through every single one of the vows. But what do they all mean, right? Then you got to study. 6 years of classes, all on YouTube, right, Francisco? The Worldview Productions has made playlist of all of those classes. Oh, he has the book too. Looks like he's studying too. And if they haven't been made, we should make that one. You know, you see, so, and we've also been studying those vows in relationship to the diamond weight as well, privately. And the more that we're studying them, the more that this is like, the more you start to see how all of these things are connected together, how all of the pieces come together. Right. And I'm sure that many of you are starting to see that now that we're going through these reviews. You're starting to see, oh, wow, this is how the Lam Rim fits in. By the way, if you don't remember, ACI 9, classic ACI 9 also includes an overview of the Lam Rim. And which Lam Rim does it include? Does anyone remember? You're not allowed to look. No. An overview of the Lam Rim Chenmo? Are you kidding me? The biggest Lam Rim? No, no, no. Song of My Spiritual Life, exactly. Right, which we just spent 6 courses going over with Geshe Michael. I wonder if, get it? I wonder if there's some kind of plan here. Okay. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. So when we're hearing this class, so when we're talking about the class, take this, look at it differently. Look at it in the sense of what is this preparing you for, not what is this restricting you from? Because a lot of Vinaya sometimes, especially in the beginning, feels like I'm not allowed to do anything. And there's certain things in the Vinaya that, especially for lay people, that are a little bit, let's say modern lay people, modern non-ordained people who have normal lives, normal families, normal sexualities, normal relationships, right? And what I mean by normal is like a normal sexual drive, right? And then all of a sudden the Vinaya goes, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to do anything. You guys remember that part of that course, you know, and it's just like you have to think about why. Like what is it asking you to do, right? And modern life is a little bit different now. And some of the things that the Vinaya says are, that we should restrict ourselves from, we don't subscribe to anymore because it's not, we understand how people, people are people, right? We understand that people have differences, and we understand that people, love is love, right? It doesn't, the Vinaya says, look, homosexuality is something we should avoid, you know, okay. Like, but that's not the modern world, right? So we have to reinterpret some of the things. Like, you know, ACI 5 houses, we are inclusive of all people and all walks of life and all choices that people make, and all, you know, you love who you want to love, right? And so, and it's a safe place for everybody here. So the Vinaya traditionally says certain things, and we're not going to talk too much about it today, but you have to look at it from in a different lens, right? And the lens to look at it, and I'm just going off on the, you guys can do your reviews. I'll cover the stuff I want to cover. Okay. You can look at the PowerPoints. There's images for every single one. You know, you can go through all of it. But I think it's important to talk about it. It's like, desire, all kinds of desire come in different, you know, different levels of um, let's say overwhelm. Okay. Like certain kinds of desires are more powerful and guide our behavior or inform or push us towards doing certain things than other things. And one of the most powerful desires we have are food, because I get hungry and I'm hungry right now. Right? Like, and we all have varying relationships with food, right? Sometimes we control, and sometimes we have deep need to control it. Some people can't control it. You have like, there are so many bodily processes going on. Like I went to the doctor last week in Singapore, and they said, you know, you eat too much sugar. And I'm like, actually, I don't. And they're like, well, let's look at your blood tests. Your blood tests say something otherwise, and I'm like, he's giving me all these explanations, and I'm looking at my body, and I'm like, you're telling me all these things, and you're describing someone's body that doesn't look like my body at all. Right. And, you know, as we went through things and talked about things, and, you know, the tests also can measure like the last 4 to 5 months of, you know, how you were eating and all those things. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. 6 months ago, I was different, right? 6 months ago, I mean, I somehow my whole diet shifted, right? But it was a big shift, and it was very, very difficult, and I was just eating garbage. Like I was 6 kilograms heavier. Yeah, 6 kilograms heavier, right? And so we had this long conversation. And he said, well, you do need to control more of your carb intake. And I was like, I don't eat sugars. He said, yeah, but you eat a lot of rice. you know, and I'm like, oh, damn it, right? And so like making these changes, then your body has reactions and then you start feeling crappy. And then, the whole idea is like the balance of insulin and blood sugar and all these things. And I can give you a talk about it some other time. But the whole thing was like, there's so much that I don't control how I feel, you know, just based on what I eat. Right. And shifting to a lower carb diet, like it takes a couple of weeks for the body to come back online. Like, so you feel like crap, you have headaches, your mind's not clear. You don't have control of that. Oh, your sexual desire, by the way, other thing, sex is something that also is a huge overwhelm for a lot of people. It drives so much of what we do, you know, and then there's so many emotions around it. Like, you know, if you have some desire, like then all of a sudden, then you impose a morality on top of it. And then you go, oh, I shouldn't have that. I should be shameful, you know, and then, or you don't, you're just like, well, should I feel something or do I not feel something? Or, oh, I'm in a partnership. And then all of a sudden my eye wanders to somebody else, not because I really want to have anything with them, but, I'm like, wow, they're kind of sexy. Right. And if you're honest about it, like it's a drive that we have. And it's a lot of times it's a drive we can't control, you know, men and women. Okay. Women, if you want to check out your sex drive, monitor your menstrual cycle. Check things out when you're ovulating. Like look around. Like is the world different when you're about to ovulate than when you're actually, when your body is flushing itself, when it didn't get pregnant, right? Notice how you feel. Like what's going on in the desire in your body, right? That's it's a real thing, right? Men, you know, I can talk about it from my point of view, right? We don't have to talk too much about me, but it's like it's a drive. Like the hormones are a drive and it influences the way that you see things, right? And so in a lot of ways, Vinaya is about understanding who you are and understand how that helps people or hurts people, right? How it feels good, right? How it feels good to have attention from somebody else. Mansplaining. Someone just sent me a message about mansplaining. I wasn't talking to the women. I was talking to the men who have no idea about women's bodies. Men, learn about women's bodies. Okay. It'll help your relationships. No, but seriously, like look at the way that you behave at certain times during certain situations, and the way that it hurts people and the way that it helps people, and there are certain ways that these behaviors that are a lot of times automatic. We're mammals, right? We have biology, and then we overlay a certain way we're supposed to behave in that biology, right? And every culture is a little bit different. Some things are permitted, some things aren't. Some things hurt people. Some things that some cultures permit are actually hurtful and karmically hurtful than other things, right? And everyone goes, "Oh, I had someone in New York tell me I'm from New York. We just behave this way. And I was like, yeah, but you're still acting like a jerk. Right. And and so I think Vinaya really is about understanding what drives you. Notice the shifts in your body. Like, when are you more prone to do things that might hurt somebody else? Or you might be only thinking of yourself. When will you, when are you more open and available to helping other people? Right. And so when we look at these deep drives that we have, jealousy, our sexuality, our anger, our pride, like all of these things, like, Kat just mentions intoxicants. Like, why does the Buddha recommend not taking intoxicants? Because it blinds you to those things of jealousy and pride and anger and desire that hurts other people, right? Like the other day, I'll just admit it, right? Like the other day, I was sitting in a cafe, just minding my own business, having a tea, and a young person walked in, very attractive, and my eyes were like, they just went, right? And then I was like, and I kind of was like, whoa. And I was like, do you pull your eyes back, Tim? And then I was like, my first thought was, how did they feel when they saw my eyes move towards them? And I went through a laundry list of potential things. They liked it, or they didn't like it, or they were like, God, I can't go into any place without having some creepy old guy stare at me. Like, you know, a lot of my friends have described to me what it's like to be a woman and have men just look at them. And then there's this moment, men, I'm not mansplaining to women, men, where women become aware that men are sexualizing them, are looking at them, right? And what does that feel like, right? You know, no, the thing is, Maria, thank you. I appreciate that you don't think I'm that old, but like I'm almost 50, right? And like looking at someone who's like 18 years old is like that's creepy. Okay. But think about it. Like what does it feel like to be the recipient of that? The gaze, the desire, right? What does that person want? Am I safe? Is it just a look, or is the person thinking about something else? Do they want to do something else? Do I want them to do, like no, like what does that feel like? You know, and it doesn't feel good, right? And what we do at Five Houses is we really try very hard to make the environment safe for people, right? We really try to be like, this is a place for people to, it's not a place where people are picking each other up, right? It's not a place where, yes, we also have this thing about like everyone needs to find a spiritual partner. Where you're going to find a spiritual partner is at a Five Houses event. I get it. I'm not like oblivious to that, right? but it should be safe and it should be not creepy, right? You should feel safe to be a practitioner, and being a practitioner is also being vulnerable as well. And so the Vinaya informs how we act, right? And then informs you like to look at yourself and be like, you know, be honest. Like, yeah, I have those things in me. Am I a bad person? No. Am I going to do those things? No. Do sometimes things happen where I catch myself like just automatically in habit or some karma ripen? Yes. Like, okay, so I didn't stare at the person. I just was like, just looked at my computer and I'm like, type something, Tim. Like, you know, then think about it and be like, okay, well, how do I change that karma? How do I change that? Right. So, so Buddhist discipline, we call it Vinaya, right? Like that's what we're calling all this, you know, is just how do we tame ourselves? That's the whole point of Vinaya. How do we take this mind that is just like, you know, all over the place, right? Uncontrolled. And we just bring it to a place where it doesn't do the things that hurt other people, which is actually hurting you. Why? Because if your mind is wild, there's no way you're going to get to Shama what? Right? There's no way for you to get to shamatha without. Look, if you're constantly wandering around and you're just like staring at all the beautiful people and your sexual desire is just like leaking out of you, sure, you might have shamatha in your desire, but it's just leaking all over the place, you know? And maybe, maybe some of the Diamond Way practices are about like taking that and focusing it in a certain way and learning how to do something different with it. That's not like, I don't know, leaking everywhere, like spewing everywhere, right? Let's see here. You can do that one. So as we were, as I said earlier, is, you know, what am I doing here? Oh yeah, yeah. So in order to see emptiness, right, you have to be able to meditate. And in order to be able to meditate, I'm sorry. What the heck was I thinking here? This is backwards. Okay, I meant it the other way. All right. The last symbol is a Zen symbol for emptiness. And that first one is actually for Vinaya. So I'm sorry. So in order to meditate, you have to have great ethics. And in order to see emptiness, you have to be able to meditate. Right? You have to be able to calm your mind down and focus your mind. You and the thing is, if you have a lot of these, if you're hurting people, even indirectly, if you're, excuse me, if your desire is all over the place, right? And I'm talking not just your sexual desire, I'm talking about all kinds of desire. Wanting too many things. You just focusing on making too much money, focusing on, all of those things. It will disturb your mind. How will it disturb your mind? Just sit in meditation and see what happens. I don't have to tell you. Just go sit in meditation and see what happens in your mind. That's all. That's probably why a lot of you aren't meditating regularly because you sit down and you're like, my mind is blah. Okay. It's true. Like, and so how do you navigate that? Well, look at the content. This is how I do it. Look at the content of your meditation. Where your mind goes when you're not meditating on what you're supposed to be meditating on. Where does it go? And then you're informed of the things that are bothering your mind. And that gives you a place to say, all right, let's four powers that. And then let's plant different seeds. You see? So when you're sitting in meditation, oh, I can't meditate very well. My mind is busy. Okay, well, then do something. Take notes. Okay. Take notes. Look at what your mind goes to and then worry about, okay, well then I need to plant different seeds. That's all. Because if you want to reach that goal, which over the next 2 years, Geshe Michael is going to be teaching us how to see emptiness directly. Why are we learning this right now? Why did this come up right now? Maybe Tim, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to myself. Maybe you need to look at some of those things that you've been kind of ignoring lately, and then you just go for it. If you want it, like I had this cool conversation. I met uh I met a business guy in Malaysia. Beautiful, beautiful man. He owns, I don't know how many companies, but a big, huge product distribution network. And I was sitting talking to him, and we talked for maybe an hour and a half. And then afterwards, we had some lunch. His family came in, his son came in, who's like the heir to the business. We had a nice lunch, and then we sat down and talked again. And then he said, you're someone who works really hard. And I was like, me, I'm like, yes, of course I work really hard. And he said, no matter what you do, you're going to work hard and you're successful at it. Like whatever you do, like you're successful. And I'm like, I didn't see it coming, right? But I was like, yeah, you see me, right? And then he dropped the bomb and he said, but are you really working for what you want? Like, I was like, what? And he said, I don't think you know what you want. And then he was like, oh, yeah, you got to go get your plane. Bye. Have a nice day. Like, sends me out. Right. And I was like, oh, and I thought about it for a while and I just started evaluating so many things. And I was like, yeah, you know what? He's right. I work really hard, and I figure things out. That's my job. That feels like my job in my head. Figure stuff out, solve the problem. You know, anyone who's worked with me like knows like it's like let's solve problems. Let's figure it out. Let's learn. But what he directed my mind towards is what problem do you want to solve? Like put your mind on that. Don't put your mind on 20 different things. Because as I got to know him, he was, I had met his brother previously in India, and his brother runs the Indian side of the business. And they're completely different people. Like one guy is sort of he just shoots from the hip. That's an expression translators. Like he just is like he just pulls out the guns and he's just like, he's like, he just goes in whatever direction and like solves whatever's immediate priority. The brother, on the other hand, the one in Malaysia, is very methodical, very structured. And you can see it in his office. Like his office completely organized. There's no disarray whatsoever. Even the way he ate, I watched how he ate. He's everything's in a complete order. The brother is just like, you know, completely random, right? You know, and so he's the type of person that, he has the whole family business had been in India. And then he decided that they needed to diversify. And so he went to Malaysia, started everything there. And you could see that he focuses on his goal. Like he has a Shama tattooed. And he just does it. And I realized what he was telling me. Like it wasn't that I don't have a goal. That's not what he said. He said is you're focused on too many goals. You know. So what do you really want? And I'm like, well, that's pretty clear what I've been trying to do and then trying to like push out of my life. And so part of what I've been doing since then is removing the things that don't serve the goal, not in this like militant kind of way. Um, where you're so like you can't have any kind of fun. The Vinaya doesn't say don't have fun. Okay. This is the kind of message I want to shift into this. Like, it's not like don't do, don't do, don't do, don't do, right? It's more like that some of the things you're doing, are they serving your goal or not? And then you have to, then you just evaluate, yes, it is, or no, it's not. Like, if you would like a committed partner, does looking at all the beautiful people who walk in the cafe going to help you? Well, Tim, how am I going to find the most perfect partner if I don't look for them? Right? I got to see them when they walk in, right? Yeah. Well, yes, of course you have to see them. But everybody knows that guy who's always like, what was that movie cartoon? I think it was called Up, where there's a squirrel who's always like attracted to something different. It's like squirrel, right? And runs over there and runs over there, right? Everyone knows that person. Ice Age, yeah, Ice Age, yeah. Like, everyone knows that person who's like falls in love with every single person they meet for like a week, right? And then they move on to somebody else, right? They're constantly like looking for the next shiny object, right? What is that energy like? If you're obsessively looking for a partner, like what is that doing? Like people can feel it. Do you want to obsessively, if you want to if you really, really want a partner, take that energy and go to the nursing home. Squirrel, right? Take that squirrel energy and just go help some old people, help some lonely people, right? Focus the energy, right? So, and let me tell you, it, yeah, let me tell you, it actually is a lot of fun. If you take Vinaya in the way that it's intended, it's a lot of fun. Doesn't look that way sometimes. So the whole point here is this, right? To calm your mind to a place where it's able to reflect, they say reflect the moon perfectly. So when you look at this picture, Is the water, which is your mind, is it reflecting the moon perfectly? Is the water still? It's somewhat still. I was trying to find a picture last night. I couldn't find it. Where I had taken this beautiful picture of the moon rising over the ocean. And but the way that the light was, the light reflected from the horizon all the way to the beach. It was like one beautiful line of light. I couldn't find the photo. I know exactly where I took it, but I couldn't find the photo. But the water wasn't still at all, you see. And so, like in this photo here, right, the water is somewhat still. And the stiller your mind gets, the more you learn about it. And let me give you a little insight from my own practice. It's the stiller your mind gets, the more you have to look at it, and you might not like what you see. You might not like what's being reflected back. And that's where a lot of people give up. And that's where a lot of people go to a place of, oh, I'm not a good person, or I don't like myself, or I'll never be able to do this. And it's part of the process. At least it is has been for me. Okay, so like because then you have to get in there and get into the weeds and you're like, yeah, you know what? You're not bad people. You're not a bad person. Those old seeds just assert themselves, right? Like the idea of Vinaya is that it teaches you what what disturbs that mind. So then you could actually reflect. The better you get at it, the calmer it gets, the more you see. So you should celebrate it on the other side. Wow, I get to see that mud, then I get to take care of it. You get to dredge it up, and you get to like stop doing those things. You know, is there a way to look at beautiful people that doesn't like exude and leak sexual desire? Totally, right? There's a way to, first of all, the first thing to do is if you notice something beautiful, you should be proud that you did something in the past to create it. That's all. Wow, that's a beautiful person. Wow, good job. Good job, Tim. Right. And then it takes, thank you, Anna. That's what the picture was like. Not that good though. Mine wasn't that good. Then desire is different. Like it doesn't want. It's like it doesn't go like, oh, I want that. Right. I need that. Right. Because if you understand where it comes from, then you understand how to get more of that. Then you don't want in the same way. You don't, it doesn't drive you. And then people can feel it. You know, people can feel that, and then it automatically changes how your internal energy moves. And people can sense it, right? When you're around people who have a pure sexuality, like, or their desire isn't like, it just feels comfortable. It just, like, you know, people who have children that just like flock to them, you know, look for those kind of people. Like when children are comfortable around people, you know, that they're like children know when people are creepy. Children know when people are unsafe. They can feel it, right? And you feel it too. Like get in touch with your inner child. You know who's creepy and who's not. You can smell people who have great morality. You can feel it. They feel comfortable. They feel safe to be around. They don't invoke us, it's a feeling, right? And then you watch your own feelings around it. Then you got to deal with that. Okay. Okay. So what are the five? Let's see here. Hold on. I'm just trying to figure out what we're going to say right now. So basically the definition of Vinaya, right, is you're turning away from harming others and its basis. Okay. Because when you look at the top 10 virtues or non-virtues, Vinaya focuses on the first seven primarily. The actions of your words and your deeds themselves, the actual things you do, say and do. It doesn't focus overtly on the mental aspect of it, right? The last three of those 10. But the definition is turning away from harming others and the basis. And the basis refers to the three mental bad deeds: jealousy, ill will, and wrong worldview. Okay. Those things that inspire bad deeds. Okay. So the idea really is what then motivates you to do that. Okay. I have a picture for this. There you go. Right. The three things, the three pillars. Okay. Those three mental bad deeds: jealousy, ill will, which jealousy basically is being upset when people get something they want. Ill will is being happy when people don't get what they want. Right. And then wrong worldview of misunderstanding the world. Those three things all then inform your deeds and your speech. And so Vinayak says, all right, we're primarily going to focus on the speech and the things you do. Okay. Focus on the outer action to then change the inner world. Okay. And it's all for in one motivation. And what's that motivation? Just basic renunciation. You're, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of things not working out. If you live long enough, you see the patterns. You see it happen over and over again. Right. And it's just a feeling for yourself at first that I'm tired of this. I don't want any of this. Okay. There has to be a different way. The old way is not working. And so that's what's motivating us. The old way is not working. And then you look at yourself and you're like, yeah, the things that I say and do, which are motivated mainly by my thoughts, right, which I can't control at this point, I need to become aware of how those thoughts hurt other people through my words and through my actions. Right. And so here's a whole bunch of things that you can do or not do that then karmically come around and then shift the way that you think. So that that jealousy or that ill will or even that wrong worldview, right, starts to shift. And then it slows down the flow of afflictions in the mind. So then you can reflect what's actually there. You can see what's actually there. You see? So the whole thing, it's the design is, pretty cool, right? And for a lot of us, which I find fascinating, is that we didn't enter through the Vinaya. All of a sudden we're entering because we have some previous seeds of having studied Diamond Way, and we're going to be, go to some transmission in October, wherever you go. And then you're like, how do I keep that engine going? And we're like, oh, yeah, we got to go back to the Vinaya. Like your seeds are ripening all over the place. And now we have to make sure we can contain all of it and hold all of it for that transformation. Because if you're doing any of those things, and especially with a Diamond Way point of view, the seeds can ripen very fast, and your mind it's the most uncomfortable thing when you've gotten to a place where your mind is still and then you can't control the seeds, and then your mind is a total tormentuous, you know, storm. Like if you've done long retreat and you've been able to do that and get to a place of pretty quiet or close to shamatha or actually reaching some kind of shamatha and then moving out of it, it is like, you know, it's like being caught in a tidal wave, you know, and then you're just like, oh, what do we do with this? Your seed ran out. You had shamatha and the seeds ran out. And now you got to go build it again. If you've ever had a good meditation and then you can't get back there, it's because the seed ran out. Now go build. Go back and build. All right. So how much time do we have? I think I've said all those things. I said all those things. Okay. So just real quickly here, you know, so when we're talking about layperson's vows, like normal people, like not ordained, like there's 5 primary commitments that you make. All right. And I want to kind of go through it and then to understand it, right? Understand the why. So the first one is about not killing a human or a human fetus. Okay. Is committing to not killing. And we live in a world where in societies themselves it is not appropriate to kill each other, except if you're a government. And then if you're a government, you're allowed to have a military. And then if you're allowed to have a military, then you're allowed to go kill people. It's the weirdest thing ever, to be honest. Individually, we live in societies that it's inappropriate to kill. Right? But then our governments, many of the governments, have militaries, and then the militaries are trained to kill other people. It's such a weird karma. Okay. Gabriela, the distinction between ordained is when you're a monk or a nun, And if you're not ordained, you're considered a layperson. It's one or the other. Okay. Or, we can talk about it. But these are the specific five things that anyone, even an ordained person, let's say layperson, and let's make it genderless. So the first one is not killing a human. Okay. And so I think the way that I think about all of these is I don't personally kill people, right? You know, but am I doing things to prevent that from happening? How am I protecting life? So flip it around. How do I protect life? You know, and my favorite example, and I do it all the time, is don't step on the ants. How, like, I got lunch yesterday. I walked out and there were a whole bunch of ants. And I'm like, hey guys, let me walk around you. My backyard, I've been creating a whole ecosystem in my backyard. I have sunflowers and there's honeybees now, and there's a paper wasps, and there's ants, and there's crickets. There's all these new animals back there that I have to be careful of. Right? So I personally don't kill humans, but like how many bugs do I kill when I'm driving my car, for example, right? Protect life. That's the first thing. Second thing here is don't steal what was not given to you. All right. This guy is taking money out of a wallet, right? Now, most of us don't go around stealing money from people out of their pockets. But what small ways might you be taking something that wasn't given to you? Now, when you look at your mind that way, ooh, right? That gets interesting. And the example I always tend to use is like when you go to someone's house and you say, hey, can I use the bathroom? And they say yes, you assume that you can use their toilet paper, right? If you stay over a friend's house and you say, oh, can I take a shower? And they say yes, you assume you can use their shampoo, right? Maybe don't make those assumptions. Like if you're in my mom's house, there's her special shampoo. Then she has other shampoo. You have to ask her because if you use her shampoo, she gets upset, right? So when I go to my mom's house visiting, I say, oh, mom, I'm going to take a shower. Which shampoo can I use? Can I use the water in your toilet? Can I use your toilet paper? Right? Like it's kind of silly, but there's assumptions we're making, you know. So maybe ask, like, when you go to the bank, do you take too many, like, do they give you candies? Like, how many candies can you take? Like I see people who like go to cafes and then they take like three sugars and then put them in their bag for later. Like that's kind of stealing. And they're like, no, 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 no. No, they just assume that, people are going to take a lot. Well, yeah, we do assume. And when you own a restaurant that people take more, right? But they didn't say you could take it. So I think that's like, look at the things that you take and was it actually given to you? Okay. Third, don't lie, especially about your spiritual realizations, right? This is specific to like, don't tell people you've seen emptiness directly or something when you haven't, or don't give people the impression that you're more realized than you are. Like, you know, the serious, serious bad deed. And you can think about why. Four, we've talked about the sexual misconduct. Like the most obvious sexual misconduct is two people are in a committed monogamous relationship, and either one of them breaks that commitment, or you yourself are interested in someone who's in that kind of committed relationship, right? You know, and it gets subtle sometimes, right? Like, well, what if my relationship isn't working out and I meet somebody new? Well, your relationship's having a difficult time. Deal with it, right? Don't start something new until the agreement has changed in the other one. But if you're in that weird situation, maybe look at the seeds that you're in. Not so much of like, should I be with this person or that person? Like, look at the seeds. But this, like, the first thing I do when I meet somebody is try to find out what commitments they have, right? If I'm like, ooh, that person, I kind of feel something. I'm like, okay, what, let's look for a ring. Let's look for like, are they in a committed monogamous relationship? And if they are, you just move on. Just move on. Don't entertain it. And by the way, like adultery just usually doesn't happen, right? Like, oh, it was an accident. It wasn't an accident. it, 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 I've seen it happen. Oh, we're just friends. Oh, we just go out to lunch at work. Yeah, that's how it starts. Okay. Next is not taking intoxicants, distilled or from plants. Okay. And we talked about it already. What does it do to you? What does it do to your mind? You can have that kind of fun that those people are having without the alcohol. I promise. Just go get a mocktail. It's just about holding something in your hand anyway. And then, giving your mouth something to do. Okay. You can have plenty of fun. And yes, Ken, if that medication has some alcohol in it, it's okay. Right? Because if you're drinking the medications to get drunk, then that's not okay. Okay. Sometimes things are made from alcohol. But this is about, you know, it makes you stupid. It it takes down the barrier between your capacity to not do something when you have a jealousy attack, or you have a pride attack, or an anger attack, or a sexual desire attack. Okay. Give yourself a couple drinks and then you know, then you start doing things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And that's why. Okay. And then the last one is about number six, which is only five, but the sixth one is about the advices on refuge, which are mainly about emptiness. This little boy is going to refuge in his mother, right? And refuge is about going to emptiness. Um, I'll answer that question after the break, Maria. Okay, cool. There's your introduction to Vinaya. Mainly in the next class, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the correlations. Like I said, look at your world, and then your world will tell you what seeds you need to plant and what you need to stop doing. Okay. And so the next class, we're going to go through what are those correlations to start developing this muscle, right? Okay. I look out at the world. I go to the post office. I look at the news. Why doesn't the news focus on good stuff? Why does it always have to tell us all the stupid bad things that happen? I don't know. Let's work on that seed too. You see. So we're going to then we're going to get some of the tools to look at the world and say, okay, what do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? All right. Cool. Have a nice break. See you in a half hour.